Hey everybody, and welcome to this introductory series in Darktable. In this episode we're going to be going over all sorts of basics about Darktable, but we won't be really getting into a ton of different modules. Those will come in later episodes. We will get into a few though. As always, go ahead and check the time code if you want to jump to different points in the video. So let's go ahead and get started. Personally I've avoided going through Darktable just because it is such a massive program. There are so many different settings and tools and things like that. But for this particular tutorial, we're just going to look at just kind of the very basics. So real quick, as you can see here, there's these arrows that are at all four corners of the interface, and if you double click on them, you can open and close different parts of the interface. So I'm just clicking on these here, and you can see I'm just clicking and I continue clicking, and then they open and close. So if there's parts of the interface that you don't like and you want to close them, then this is how you do it. Now let's go ahead and open up an image. So I'm going to come over here to image. Now if I have a folder of images, I have to choose folder, and that will open up every image in the folder. I'm just going to choose image, and then I'm going to come over here to my desktop and just choose this image right here and click open. Now one thing you'll notice immediately is we switched from Lighttable, which is where we were. This is kind of like your camera roll in Lightroom, and we switched over here to Darktable. It says no image open, so if I double click on this to open the image, there we go. And here we are. So you can see I just have this picture. We have our histogram up here. Here we have snapshots. A snapshot is kind of like it's where you've gone ahead and edited an image, and you can take a snapshot, and then if you edit it more, you can always go back to those particular settings. We also have our history here, and then our duplication manager. So if you want to edit one photo, duplicate that photo to continue editing it so that you have a copy of what you had before. It's kind of like snapshots, except for this actually duplicates the image. You have your color picker right here, tagging. This is the image information, which is going to become useful. And then we have our mask manager, where we can create masks to edit certain parts of the image. So now that we've gone through kind of our left hand side here, let's go through the right hand workspace. And actually I'm just going to close down this bottom part here because I don't really need any of that. But I can come down here and look at some of this stuff. So if I click this button, it actually creates a second window. I have a second monitor in it, and here we go. It creates a second window with our image. And then of course this button is quick access to applying any styles. Now a style is like a preset, and so we would need to create a style first before we can apply them. And then these are our favorite modules, and over here on our right hand side, these are all the modules. So if we define some of these as being our favorite modules, kind of these starred modules, then we can quick access those down here at the bottom of the screen. So then we can come down here and click on this toggle ISO 12646 color assessment conditions. You can see that it gives us a 50% gray and then white, and what this does is it helps us determine the truth of the colors. So having these two colors helps us determine the truth of the colors within the image. So we can toggle that on and off right here, and then if we come over one more, this shows us our overexposure in the raw image. So you can see these little dots here show us that some of these parts of the flowers are overexposed. And then of course we have underexposure. This is just a different version of what we just clicked on, that shows potential over and underexposure. And then if we right click on this little toggle here, this is the soft proofing. And so we can go ahead and change some of these settings right here just to see what it looks like. But I'm not going to get too much into that. And then this is the color gamut checking. And that just helps us to figure out what colors are going to kind of be too easily overexposed when we finish. Like this pink back here in this image, if I increase the exposure, the chances that this is just going to get way too overexposed too quickly is very high. And then this little hash right here shows us what the overlays are. So let me go ahead and just change it. I'll change it to something like yellow. And then if we were to come here to this crop and rotate module and turn that on, you can see that all of the lines are yellow, but I could change them to cyan, or I could change them to gray, whatever suits your fancy. So anyway, those are some of the settings here in our image editing window. And now we can go ahead and get on into our module window over here. And this is kind of broken up into two different parts. So we have our histogram up here at the top, and then we have all of our different modules down here at the bottom. You can kind of, before we get into these two, let's go ahead and look at the more modules down here. And there's a ton of other modules that are a part of Darktable. And I can just turn all of them on, and they're appearing here in the favorites module window, and that's because I have clicked it twice. So if I go here and I click once, let me see here. Okay, so you can see it's deselected now. So that means that this module cannot be found in any of these different groups. If I click once, you can see here this base curve right here is now showing up in my basic group. If I click again, you can see that this basic curve shows up in my favorites because it's got a little star. And then if I click a third time, it disappears from both. So you can go through. I prefer to just turn everything on. So let me just turn all of these back on. I'm not putting anything in my favorites just yet. And so I've gone ahead and just turned on everything in my more modules. So if you're looking for something up here that I'm talking about and you can't find it, then you can either come down here, or you can go ahead and search. Like I just turned off vignetting, but I can search for vignetting right here. I don't even have to turn it on, but it's still there in the searching box. Okay, and then the other option is the module order. So you can see that I can change the order from version 3.0 to legacy, and basically that just rearranges all of these modules in a different order. Okay, now that we've got that down, we've talked a little bit about the module groups here. And of course that just changes. You can hover your mouse over. You can see this is the basic group. You can have the tone group, color group, correction group, and effects group. And then this one with the little on symbol, the little power symbol, shows all of your modules that are currently active. And then of course here's our favorites. Up here in the histogram, this is one thing that I really enjoy about Darktable, is that you can actually edit the exposure of the image by just grabbing either this back part or this front part. This back part is the black point, this front part is the white point. So if I go ahead and just grab, click and drag to the left, you can see that I'm actually changing the exposure of my image. So let me go ahead and just kind of change the exposure there, and then let me pull back here, and this is changing the black point of my image. So when I shot this image, I shot it slightly overexposed. If I want to undo what I've done up here with the exposure, I have to come down to the exposure module, double click on each of these to go ahead and reset them to 0. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, because I wanted to show you that you can also change your exposure using this exposure module, which can be found in the basics group under exposure, and then you can just drag the little slider back down. That's the exposure. The other thing that's really important to do if you really want to is you can go ahead and turn off everything. Let's go ahead and come over here. So this output color profile, input color profile, demosaic, and raw black and white points are all on by default, and you can't turn them off because this is a raw image and these ones have to be on in order for Darktable to understand and read the image correctly. Right now I've got the bare basics, the bare bones of what raw therapy needs to read this image, and that's the white balance. You can see if I turn the white balance off, my image becomes green because the tint and the temperature is a little bit different. So if I go ahead and turn that on, the white balance actually is reset, although I will kind of shift that tint over just a little bit. And then we have the demosaicing options, which we can do a maze, VNG4, or pass-through monochrome. That all depends on kind of what you're looking for. These demosaicing options can really change how Darktable looks at your image. But I'm not going to go through exactly what each one means in this tutorial series. I think leaving it on PPG or a maze, depending on what you are looking for, is your best option. And of course you can change the edge threshold and the color smoothing, change that to 5 times, and local average. You can change all of these, but by default the edge threshold is off, the color smoothing is off, and then the match greens are also off. And then your color profile, this kind of depends on your monitor, but I'm just going to leave all of those. And then of course your output profile, I would leave that at sRGB because you can use those colors in anything. And then of course you have your raw black and white point. And if I change these, you're basically also changing the exposure. And if I want to just reset it, I just double click on the number to reset to the original value. So anyway, this has been episode 1 of getting into Darktable. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will definitely be going through all of these modules in later episodes. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you guys are staying safe out there, and I will see you next time.